Will Hyman,
Present.
Mark Jackson,
Here.
Wayne Worth,
Here.
Hattie Wright,
Here.
Vice Mayor Riffle,
Here.
and Mayor Malpajo.
Here.
This evening, we have our prayer and our pledge by Councilmember Worth, and if you'd please remove your hats if you have such.
You bow your heads with me. Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the attendance tonight. Everyone in here has a stake in our city. Everyone in here has a place in our city, and we're just grateful that they're here tonight. Also, Heavenly Father, we just hope that you help guide us, council members, to try to make the right decisions. Now, we may not all agree with one another, but at the end of the day, you know, we have an idea of what we feel is best for the city, and we just hope that the outcome is what's best for the 16,000 residents that we have. But most importantly, Heavenly Father, as we leave here tonight, we just pray that you guide us through life and help us strive to be a reflection of your Son's love in the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we have a special presentation by representatives of the FBI, the Clarksburg campus. If you all would like to come forward.
Good evening. I'm Deja Karofsky. I'm actually the section chief of the Resources Management section at the Clarksburg campus of the FBI. So I'm honored to be here this evening to share a little bit of information with you. My job at the campus is really, I'm responsible for about 1,000 acres, 19 different buildings, and 4,200 employees, and all the resources that it takes to get the campus running. So honored to be in the position that I stand in. But the CJIS division partners with many agencies. We talk about our partnership, the law enforcement agencies and non-criminal justice agencies we serve come to mind first. But today we want to recognize a valuable partnership with a nearby agency that serves us, and that's the Clarksburg Fire Department. The relationship between the Clarksburg Fire Department and CJIS began in the early 1990s when we broke ground on the site. Stephen Police, the fire department's current chief, is here with us today. Chief Police was behind Senator Robert C. Byrd as the senator climbed the stairs to install the last rivet on the last steel beam as part of the topping out ceremony at our main CJIS complex. We have multiple buildings there now, but in August of 1993, 30 years ago, was when we first opened up that first building. The CJIS division is grateful to the Clarksburg Fire Department for its continued support as the fire department staff tour the complex annually to stay with the site and our fire protection system. The fire department has assisted with elevator entrapments in several buildings and served as first responders when hydrogen alarms activated in the battery rooms. Members of the Clarksburg Fire Department work with the CJIS division to conduct confined space drills and training on site. The fire suppression training and the Biometric Technology Center parking lot. Fire department staff serve on medical standby and provide educational seminars for staff, such as our Family Day and our Jerry Dove Drive race, or 5K race. The relationship between the Clarksburg Fire Department and the CJIS division grew closer after the tragic event of September 11th, when the fire department received its first wave of equipment to battle hazardous materials. The program has grown to include a tractor trailer and 30 trained hazardous material technicians on staff. Their equipment and the ability to test for hazardous material enables the department to respond to CJIS when potentially hazardous materials are received at our service center. And most recently, we always practice our COOP events and COOP exercises. We had them out there for an unplanned COOP event where we actually embedded power into one of our pieces of mail to make sure, one, the fire department was ready to respond, and I think it was unknown to some of your crew, right? So they didn't really know until they got there that it was a test, as well as our staff there that open up about 1,700 pieces of mail a month. So on a lighter note, the fire department visits our Lasting Impression Child Development Center each year to provide safety training and give the kids hands-on experience with the truck. I don't think we can talk about the Clarksburg Fire Department, its growth and its value to the CJIS division without saying a few words about Fire Chief Steve Police. Chief Police joined the Clarksburg Fire Department on October 1st, 1984. In 1991, he received the Kevin Grant Hall Award, the highest honor given to a firefighter in Harrison County. He became the chief on January 1st, 2021, and he will be retiring. I heard someone's trying to stop that, but he'll be retiring on September 15th, 2023, with nearly 39 years of service. For all that Chief Police has done for the Clarksburg Fire Department, and for all the Clarksburg Fire Department has done for the CJIS division and our entire campus, we thank you. We'd like Chief Police to come forward, if we can present him with the Clarksburg Fire Department with a token of our appreciation to express our gratitude for the service to the CJIS division.
Approval of the minutes of the regular session of August 3, 2003.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Petitions, communications, and public hearings. Gary Rollins of 87 Pinewood Drive wishes to address council concerning street paving.
Good evening, council, city manager. I feel like it's like twice a month I'm supposed to go somewhere, and it's always this place. I've been coming frequently. It's kind of interesting. I've been in the school business. It's a lot more fun than going to a school board meeting. You won't go any further than that. But what I do want to speak to you about is a concern that the residents up there, I believe that in Stony Brook, there's in the neighborhood of 25 townhomes. They've been there since the early 70s. And I've lived there 22 years. So don't go trying to figure out all the math, because yes, I'm old. But just recently, in the last couple years, there's been a situation that the residents are not really happy about, don't know how it came about, and we're looking for some answers. And I think the most recent thing has nothing to do with roads, but when some of us went to vote in the city election that we voted in for years and years and years, I was informed, and some of my neighbors were informed, that we no longer live in the city of Clarksburg, therefore you can't vote. Huh? Well, the book says. I said, well, I really don't care what the book says. I've been voting here for years. So I always vote early because it's more convenient. I said, what do I need to do? Well, you can vote a provisional ballot. Okay, no problem. Da, 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 da. And I said, well, who do I need to talk to? You need to talk to. Well, I went to talk to that young man, and he was of no satisfaction to me, so that's fine. So the question is, we've already been under the impression that our two streets, Pinewood Road and Pinewood Lane, which really people don't call Pinewood Road Lane, they just call Pinewood Road, gets paved on the city's rotation. Has for years, till the last rotation came up, and somebody decided all of a sudden, they must have talked to the voting people, that we're no longer in the city limits of Clarksburg, therefore we're not going to we're not going to pave your street, it's all up to you. Oh, wait a minute. I can remember when I first bought there, you paved the street. I can remember several times in the winter, you came and got rid of snow on the street. I can remember at times, they would even maybe sweep the street. There are city signs. There's a city fire plug. We get city mail. We get the services of the Clarksburg Fire Department, not Nutter Fort, but we can't get our road paved. And so we're looking for answers as to what magically occurred in the last 2 or 3 years to say, well, can't do it anymore. Must have been a mistake. So you've been making a mistake for how many years? This place developed in the early 70s. We don't know what to do. I mean, the road in one place is really in bad need of some repair. And that's because of excessive use of salt that was put on by the city of Clarksburg. So what are we supposed to do? But my question is not what are we supposed to do? My question is, when are you going to pave the street? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I'll have the city manager look into that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Kim Bassnett, 88 Pinewood Lane, wishes to address council concerning Pinewood Lane Road City Limits issue.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm just presenting a timeline of the issues that Gary was talking about. In the summer and fall of 2022, several residents, including myself, we contacted the city of Clarksburg Public Works to ask about patching the potholes on Pinewood Road and Pinewood Lane. We also asked if our street, both the streets were on the 2022 rotation for paving. At first, we were advised that we were not on the list for street paving in 2022, but that we just weren't on the list that year. Then after making calls and using ClickFix to report the potholes, which is an app on the website for City of Clarksburg, we were told that we were no longer in the city limits of Clarksburg. We disagree with that, and we decided to pursue our options at our fall meeting for the HOA. In October of 2022, I came to a city council meeting, and before the meeting actually began, I spoke briefly with the interim city manager about the street paving issue, and he directed me immediately to the public works director, who happened to be here that night. The public works director advised me, as I understand it, when the GIS maps were drawn, we were put outside of the city limits. I advised the public works director that our houses, as well as Pinewood Road and Pinewood Lane, have been inside the city limits since they were built in 1976. The public works director advised me that he would not be able to assist us in any way unless the city council okayed it. I did respond to him that Pinewood Lane and Pinewood Road had always been in the city limits, so it should not be an issue. Later on in the winter, I did email the city mayor at the time and did not receive a response, and that's not you, sir. We have had the city pave and patch our roads. The city has scraped our roads since 1976. We have city signs posted. We have city police respond when called. We have city firefighters come to our aid. In fact, they just came a couple weeks ago. We pay city fire fees. We vote in the city elections. I just recently voted at Rosebud for the city council election. We have used ClickFix on the city website to address issues as recently as August 15th, and we have been addressed on that ClickFix. The residents of these two streets would like to know when we were disenfranchised from the city. We would like to know why we were not advised of the decision to exclude us. We do not agree with this decision. We would like to have our streets to remain within the city limits respectfully, and we would like to have our roads at least patched this year, if not completely repaved. They are in a very bad state at this point. And we have tried, and we have continued to ask and try to make it right. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
James Satterfield, Milford Street and Stony Brook Road.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I want to reiterate what the gentleman said a few minutes ago, and the young lady right behind him, about the Pinewood and Upper Stony Brook Road, which has not been spoken of. I've lived there for 32 years. I've paid all the taxes, all the assessments. The city has taken care of everything that they should have taken care of. I've voted in all the city elections, except this time. I went to vote, and they looked in the Great Book of Records and said, your name's not in here. I said, my name's not in here. Yes, your name's not in here. You're not within the corporation. I said, that's funny. I was never notified not being in a corporation. And they said, well, we'll let you vote anyhow. So they gave me a ballot. I filled it out. And I put it in a manila envelope. And I took it back to the table. They put it in a manila envelope. And they put it in a container. So anyway, Stony Brook Road still deserves to be in the corporate realms, as well as Pinewood and whatnot. I've lived in this city for 40 years. I think I mentioned it earlier, I've lived 32 years in Stony Brook Road. This city at one time was really a nice place to live. But over a period of 40 years, it's downslid a lot. Mainly, Milford Street is one of the main arteries in and out of Clarksburg. It's a shame, the condition and state of property on Milford Street in certain places. There's a guy halfway down the hill on Milford Street on the left, probably you all have seen it, that's, I call it a junkyard. It's nothing but clutter everywhere. They can't even sit down outside. I think there would be something in the city code that should be able to address that. And if there isn't, there should be.
I brought that before code enforcement, Mr. Satterfield, so.
Yeah, I went to code enforcement too. And they told me that they could give them a citation. They'd correct whatever it was, and it was business as usual.
Yeah.
So anyway, we appreciate it if you look into the property on and along Milford Street and Stony Brook Road. We thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Satterfield.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
just for clarification with regard to the voting and what happened there, and I'll explain it to all of you, is during the redistricting, that's how you ended up outside. It wasn't anything to do with us, it was the county. And it became known to us during early voting. So we took precautions and we asked them to, if they could print new books, which they could not. So we asked them to give us a list of all the people that voted on the streets so we could put them back in. And it came to my attention, I think, when Mr. Rollins came in to vote. And they came over and got me and I said, no, he's in the city. He's always voted. So that's when we encountered the problem. But hopefully, well, it should be their problem next, but hopefully they'll have that cleaned up before the next municipal election. But we didn't know about that until at the very end. So we did what we could do to make sure everybody got right to vote.
Thank you very much.
Lou Ortenzio, 204 Euclid.
Evening. This is good news follow-up. My partner in the Vendon grant, Herb Lynn, from the Western Union Office Health Affairs Institute, and I presented back in October about our Vendon grant to address substance use disorder problems in our community and the care that's received. And actually, you supported us, and we really appreciate that, with a letter of support and actually financial sponsorship, and that meant a lot to them. We just wanted to update you on what we've done in the interim and where we're going from here. And just to set things up, of course, you know, we have a terrible substance use disorder problem in our community and mental health issues that are related to that. But the good news is we have more and more care, more and more resources, more and more options to get things taken care of. I mean, 10 times as much probably as when I started looking at recovery 15 years ago. But the bad news is the network of services, if you look at it from a system standpoint, the network, the system doesn't work as well as it should. There's a lack of awareness of one provider to the next. There's a lack of communication between providers. They don't exchange information. They're not in relationship. and they don't refer to each other. So we've been looking at the network of services and trying to make that network, that system function better. And Herb has a PowerPoint to explain what we've done and where we're going. So I'll turn things over to you, Herb. If you would.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for letting us come here again. We promised you back in October we would give you a status report at the midpoint of our. Do I have control here? Yes, I do. Just need to lose this one. There we go. Okay, we said we would come back and give you a status report, so that's why we're here. But we want to tell you a little bit about what's changed about our project as well. So the big issue, as Lou mentioned, is coordinating and integrating all the wonderful services that are available to folks with substance use disorder in the county, but the system doesn't work quite as well as it could. So we've employed some techniques like social network analysis to take a look at where some gaps are, where there need to be better connections, and we've actually developed strategies to improve that, to increase awareness of one provider to other providers, and to increase the interactions between providers, especially referrals. Because when a patient needs a different service than the provider they're using can provide, that provider needs to know about where the services are that the patient needs. Because they need it when they need it, and if they don't receive it, then terrible things can happen as a result. So I wanted to show you our funding came initially from the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration through our state DHHR. That was the first year. We accomplished some things that really encouraged us, and we wanted to continue the project. So we applied for funding from the Benedum Foundation, and we received the award. When we talked to you before, we hadn't received the award yet. We were applying for it. That's why your letter of support meant so much to us. And they, of course, require community contributions. So you were gracious enough to provide some funding that helped us to move along with some of the things we proposed to do under the Benedum Foundation. Here's the essence of what we're looking at. When healthcare is not integrated and coordinated across systems, too many patients fall through the cracks, leading to missed opportunities. And especially at the end of this quote, the tragedies that could have been prevented, like overdose deaths, other outcomes that are related to substance use, economic problems. People kind of lose their lives and their productivity and their families many times. So that's what we wanted to improve, the coordination and integration of services. And the first, and we talked with many stakeholders across the county, including providers, and most people wanted to develop an association of providers that could get together, learn more about one another, provide information on the services that each had, and make it easier to communicate, exchange patient information, and make referrals to get people the help they need when they need it. So that's the main thing that we did. Lou Ortenzio is critical there because a number of years ago, he started a monthly meeting that involved providers, stakeholders, law enforcement, government officials. It was called PATAR, and I'm not going to repeat what that means, but it's a good name. But it had to be shut down because of the COVID pandemic. And so the main thing we did in the first year was to start that back up. And we've had meetings every month at the Clarksburg Baptist Church since December of 21, correct? In which we have a different presentation every month. We're increasing participation in that. Many more people are coming, and people are learning about the other providers and the other services that are available. There's a couple of other things we're working on as well, but just let me show you that we wanted to raise awareness in the community, so we organized a county community meeting, and I'll show you some photos from that. And also the main intervention was to conduct a series of network strengthening meetings involving the providers themselves. So let me show you how that's working out. And as it says down at the bottom, the main goal of the second year of the project is to increase referral relationships, because that's where we think improved health and well-being in our community lies. So here's the community meeting that was held back on April 17th. Lou has shown up at the front of this group of approximately 170 people who met for a panel discussion in the morning. There were, though, about 200 to 300 people in the church that day. Some were having breakfast, some were circulating among the resource tables that were there to exchange information about providers. And Sam Quinones, a nationally known journalist and author of the books Dreamland and The Least of Us, was the keynote speaker. But we also had the state health officer, Dr. Matthew Christensen, who's seen seated in the middle there at the table. And of course, Clay Marsh, who's the chancellor and executive dean of health sciences.
Can you speed up a little bit because your 5 minutes are up?
Does he have a balance on
Okay,
my
sorry.
time? Do we have a balance on my time?
Sure.
Thanks.
So this is the meeting afterward, where folks who identified as providers when they registered actually met to begin our network strengthening meetings. That was the first one on April 17th, the second one on May 10th. And here we actually had developed a list of opportunities and voted on the highest priorities. And then on June 14th, we had a third meeting where there were action steps developed. At this meeting, there was a consensus among the folks attending that they wanted to continue to meet monthly. And so let me just say that we've embarked on having meetings every month. This is what some of the providers said who've worked with us. They're all very positive. They thought our set of meetings actually got down to doing action, actually getting things done. The rubber was meeting the road, as one person quoted. And so that's a status report. We're going to provide a similar status report to Benham. But because we've got an increased scope, having additional meetings that the community wanted, we have need of some additional contributions from the community. And so we'd like to request a follow-up contribution of $1,000, but that's just a target that we set. We're going around to many other organizations and local governments to talk about this. This is our results from the first year, and now we're focusing on those two referral interactions, trying to boost those. So thank you for your time. Sorry I went over.
That's okay. Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Chad Sigmund, 207 Waverly Way, wishes to address council concerning the potential lease at 3rd Street and Pike Street.
Thanks for letting me speak. I just want to first of all commend council the last meeting for tabling this. I thought you all had some valid questions to find out some more information about. After the meeting, I was just wondering if there was a work session. I thought there might have been some new information. If anyone did like due diligence to find, Chris Lane brought some good points. But I don't believe there's a work session. So I was just curious if any new information such as leasing rates of comparative lots in the city. If you got any of that information, in my opinion, I mean, $2,000 for a lease, a yearly lease is ridiculously low. It comes up to $165 a month. Over a 25-year-old period, has anyone calculated any inflation calculator for this rate as well? I know, it was probably 20 years, $2,000 would be like $200 with how everything's going up so quickly. So yes, just wanted to ask those questions and get some information about that. But my opinion, I don't believe, I'm not for the city leasing this as a parking lot. I don't believe, in my opinion, most citizens would not like to be this. I don't see another parking lot here in Clarksburg. I believe we have enough parking in close proximity. So I also would like to maybe see that instead of the parking lot, to see another suitor that can maybe bring more economic development in the city, especially more than the $2,000 a year. If not, and I know it takes time, it's been since 2007, but I don't know how it has been marketed. Those are questions. I don't know how much advertising has been out there for that. But if not, maybe a potential bid for leasing or buying. If not, we can get those. I'd like to see it I'd like to see this green space. You know, I think, you know, beautification goes a long way. Quite a lot of eyesores, but just, I believe, you can get a lot of information. I believe most citizens would like to see the space utilized for potential, green space. They have a lot of, great ideas. We don't have a beautification committee, anymore, but I think you all brought up a great point, a few weeks ago, is involving the citizens. You know, we have ideas, and not just have the beautification, but involving the public. And I know everybody is, could be quietly observers on Facebook, maybe not everyone getting involved, but they have a lot of great ideas. So I just would like to, you know, again, I'm not for this, leasing. I don't believe it brings any economic growth to the city. I believe it helps a potential owner, but nothing for the city as a whole. And I believe this, can be utilized, for all, better for all citizens here in Clarksburg. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Signal.
Chris Lane wishes to address council concerning the golf building and the city lot.
So real quick right there, here in the next few weeks, just wanted to let everyone know, should have something new coming in over at the golf. Hoping to have everything finalized, signed off on it, up and running for the Italian festival. Worst case, if it doesn't happen, then be shortly thereafter, but keep your eyes peeled, it ought to be something special. To reiterate a little bit what Chad said with the city lot, I've not seen any publications or anything stating that, no, it's for open lease or, and not to reiterate what Chad said, but it would be nice to know if there has been any market studies done or appraisals done for comparable rates. I believe it was mentioned at the last meeting that there's an engineering study being done on it. You know, it would be nice to, you know, be able to hear what the cost numbers, what the engineering is. Want to reiterate, I don't know if anyone looked into the lot here adjacent to the city building to see what the city is paying for that lot and what the cost comparison would be for the city to maybe develop their own lot if needed, and, you know, release that lot for potential use, you know, by other developers or the developer seeking the city lot. Might be a good win-win across the board for everybody. And then to touch base on the folks that spoke earlier over at Pinewood there, I did do a quick search after they spoke. If it does appear, based on the city's website, if go to the homepage, go to the government tab, boards and commissions tab, onto the planning and zoning commission, and zoning information tab, there's a link for an interactive map on the city that does show the city limits boundary line. It does appear, you know, according to that map on the city site, that the residents and the streets that was mentioned earlier is within the city limits. As to the rezoning that Annette mentioned, my limited knowledge of it, I believe that's the result of the 2020 census that was performed a few years after every decade of the censuses. Seems like all the voting districts and everything gets tweaked and moved around. So probably was a clerical error that happened there, but I don't know how that would spill over and change the city limit boundary lines. So, but would encourage, you know, go on there, take a gander at the map, and it kind of shows pretty clear black and white for those folks, you know, where their position is. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day, and, you know, hopefully we have good weather for the Italian festival coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Kurt Leader, 207 West Pike Street, wishes to address council concerning board lots. Okay, Kim Harvey, and then Kurt.
Thank you for having me this evening. I have some quick numbers for you folks. I understand that Council Marsh has presented you with a couple of the designs for our proposed parking lot. And if anybody else would like to see a design, got 'em right here. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me this evening, and I appreciate all of the transparency and research that people have done on our proposed parking lot. We came from Boston approximately a year and a half ago. We have, since inception, taken over 150,000 square feet of foreclosed, historic, majestic buildings and brought them back to life. We have renovated and updated 23 out of 24 units at Gorlux, and we have 22 out of 24 units currently occupied with high-yielding professional people, bringing them into our downtown city captive audience, shopping at our shops, eating at our local establishments. And I've been actually lobbying for this parking space since inception, since we have taken deed on this property, for the mere reason that we still have our 4th and 5th floors to build out, approximately 15 to 20 more units of residential living, along with 6 retail spaces that we are currently filling. So basically, we are needing parking closer to our buildings. We have doctors, FBI people, nurses coming in at all hours of the night. I have single parents with young children that feel uncomfortable parking in the parking garage at night. And this would be a good solution to our parking problem, not only for our buildings and our retail spaces, but also open to the public. As most of you can attest to, we are team community players. We come to the meetings, we are involved with, our community. We have been branding sponsors for First Fridays for the first 6 months and still active currently. We have brought a lot of positivity and vision to our downtown area through beautification of our own buildings, with our location. When people come into the city, people run into these beautiful, majestic buildings that we have branded as bringing back that vintage, luxury, classy feel to Clarksburg. Through the economic development, we have the professional people, like I said, in our buildings, and we have a perspective of really nice retail selections that are going to be coming into our buildings to enhance the quality of life for our community and our tenants. As you can see in front of you, I know that people think that the parking lot is going to be a moneymaker. However, it's not going to be. It is an investment, and it is going to be an amenity for our properties, for our surrounding properties. And at $2,000 a year, over the 25 year term, the total cost is $50,000. The number of spots that we can get in this parking lot is about 18 spots. We have been working with Tom Brown, our town engineer. We have gotten it professionally surveyed through Horner. And 18 spots is about what we can attain to. The approximate build-out cost is about $206,000. That's with paving, surveying, legal fees, infrastructure, curb cuts, automation, insurance, lighting. I also want to, sorry.
Wrap it up, please.
Also, I want to just assure that the parking lot isn't going to be just a parking lot. We are making it in honor of the walking marker that's in the front of the old town hall. We are going to, put stone walls, landscaping, a mural to enhance the parking lot. And we just look for support from City Council. Also, August 4th of last year, I got an email from Council via interim Mark Kitty requesting to see if we had interest in the lot, knowing that we were going to need the space to grow and expand. And we graciously accepted that. So for the past year and a half, I've been working with Council Marsh with, the legalities and the research to make this parking lot happen. So there is an entity already created for the LLC in the core parking. We have legal work done and we have had all the surveying done. So, thank you.
Kurt?
Thank you for allowing her to take some of my time. I know she gets very passionate about the Gorlux building and everything. Rightfully so. She spent a lot of time there. Like she mentioned we're from Boston. We spent a lot of time here trying to promote the city. Some of the things that Kim did mention is that we do get a lot of investors that call us asking us about our opinion on Clarksburg. People that are looking to spend money downtown to buy buildings. We have people that have stayed with us and to do their due diligence on buildings. We had one last year that spent 4 months looking at the Empire building. Didn't work out. Now it's up for auction. So we, with the connections that we're able to offer, assist, and also encourage them to invest in downtown Clarksburg, we can bring this, we can bring downtown back. With the businesses we currently have down here, we're very supportive of community, as Kim mentioned. We do everything that we can possibly do to make sure that we can support downtown Clarksburg and also the businesses that are currently here. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thanks.
City Manager's report?
So I've been told by the mayor to paraphrase, so I'm going to try to paraphrase. So the first is the city parks. It's the last week for a lot of activities that are providing. There's been upgrades to a couple of parks. They've been maintained all summer. There's been some damage to park property, but it's being fixed and signage is being replaced. Code enforcement, so there's 2 pages of code enforcement. It was left out of the last report. It goes over building permits, condemned properties, re-inspections, entry letters, calls that are taken, complaints, animal control, C-click fix inspections. Those are all listed out for council to read through. Under economic development, staff attended the West Virginia Community and Development Office's On Track and Main Street, West Virginia application announcement meeting. We've had requests for information on the Empire building that's going up for auction. We submitted a grant for the Rails to Trails. There's different work with the Benenden Foundation, the West Virginia Department of Arts, Culture, and History. We've been working with the Parking Authority, and now we're going to have a meeting with the Traffic Commission about a plan for the parking meters going forward. And the URA is going to be meeting again next week to have some more work sessions to work on some of the committee bylaws. In the finance department, the ERP software and all on-premise data has migrated to a cloud-based solution through Tyler Technologies. The fire departments, The members of Shift B did a fantastic job with the First Fridays spray zone. Thanks to both Lieutenant Mark Walsh and firefighter First Class Mike Blake for their assistance with the Heart Kitchen First Responder Cooking event. And the fire department will be assisting with the McDonald's of downtown on Saturday, the 19th, the 50th anniversary celebration. The police department would like to remind drivers and citizens school will be back in session August 21st. Please be careful when you're out and about with all our little people around the city. Congratulations to Patrolman Elijah Housley for being selected Officer of the Month for July 2023. If you see something, say something. And would like to remind citizens with the Labor Day holiday coming up, please drive safely as well. Going through public works, again, there are sanitary sewer line replacements, sidewalk replacements, manhole lid and springs were installed, storm pipe was replaced. They cameraed different line locations. They helped clean up and prep for different events throughout the city. We're working with DOH with different projects they are doing in our city. Again, I want to highlight, they've picked up 24,000 pounds of yard waste and processed just over 82,000 pounds of yard waste at the compost center. There was street light maintenance. They've installed banners for festivals as well and answered after hours pages. The Robinson Grand Performing Arts have a number of performances and concerts and presentations over the next month. Those are all listed as well. For more information and tickets, you can visit therobinsongrand.com. And the water treatment plant. So the discharge monthly report will be submitted for the month of July and there's no violations. The thickener project is complete. The main raw pump was repaired. The wastewater treatment chemical bid took place. 3 bids were awarded and the tank inspections have begun. And again, this is important. Please do not flush baby wipes or flushable wipes down the drains. They do not dissolve and can cause blockages in the sewer line as well as damage to the pumps.
Unfinished business, Arlington Sewer Project, consideration of second reading of an ordinance authorizing the design and other pre-construction services for the additions, betterments, and improvements to the sewage system of the city of Clarksburg, as well as costs to be paid to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in regard thereto, and the financing of the cost thereof, not otherwise provided through the issuance by the city of not more than $1,500,000 an aggregate principal amount of sewer design revenue bond, Series 2023A, providing for the rights and remedies of and security for the registered owners of such bonds, authorizing execution and delivery of all documents relating to the issuance of such bonds, and authorizing the sale and providing for the terms and provisions of such bonds, and adopting other provisions relating thereto.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of second and final reading of an ordinance of the city of Clarksburg to lease property situated at the corner of South 3rd Street and West Pike Street. This matter was tabled at the August 3rd council meeting.
So moved.
Does this require public hearing?
That we had the public hearing the last time. But you have to make a motion to take it
Oh,
off the table.
I guess I'll move to, move it from the table back into from the table, I guess.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to remove the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Senator, we have a motion for the final reading of the ordinance?
Do we need to make a motion for that? Yeah, okay. Well,
You got a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
discussion on this.
Okay.
So last meeting, the concerns last meeting was the price per year, $2,000 a year. Didn't really have a construction plan, didn't have a cost of construction, and no real documentation of the going rate for lease on parking spaces in town. Apparently, I guess couple of those issues have been addressed since this meeting started. This meeting, I have some concerns, and questions and concerns about this. So will the city engineer be overseeing the approved construction plans going forward? Okay. And my other question is, when this was put up for lease, was there any kind of RFP where other potential interested parties had a fair shot at also leasing this space?
So I talked to the city clerk about this. If it was, we were putting it for sale, my understanding is we are required to do that. Because it's a lease, it's a little less clear from what we can research in our ordinance. It's allowed, but I don't have any context to that because, again, this was done before I was here. But if it was for sale, it would have had to have been.
I think for me, just at the end of the day, I have concerns with leasing a space and having a private entity make improvements to a city property. In that case, and in my opinion, I think we should just put the property up for auction. That way we're not, where everyone has a fair shot at making a bid on this. So with that said, I'm going to be a no vote for it.
I'd like to add too as well. I think I do share several of your concerns, Councilman Worth. But my recommendation would be to send it over to the Urban Renewal Authority, let them do a redevelopment plan, advertise it, and then have plans submitted by potential developers. So they're more than welcome to submit a plan they might have in place. But with that plan comes what the use is for the property, what the cost is they're willing to pay, and the Urban Authority does not have to award it based upon cost. It's based upon the best use for the property. I can tell you in the last 3 years, between 15, 18, 19, we had 3 potential developers for that property. There is a file in the office somewhere in there under City Hall. You can probably contact those 3 developers, send it to them as well. There's a national chain that was interested in it, as well as some other local individuals that had housing, condo kind of plans, townhomes type of thing with parking underneath. There was also an eye doctor that was also interested in the property as well. So there are people interested in it. I think this needs to be advertised with a redevelopment plan to see if it doesn't come to fruition, then by all means, where they might be the best opportunity for it. So I think we should just send that over to the URA and let them decide. So that's what I'm at.
Anyone else? Discussion?
Several weeks ago, I reluctantly supported this. I did speak about all the concerns I had at that time. And, obviously some more information has came to light. I share Councilman Wirtz and Councilman Howe's concerns as well. I think it's, and honestly, my biggest concern is and regret really is the fact that, there was really no negotiation with council. And, I understand that didn't have to take place from what I've been hearing. It's unfortunate that it did not. Because I think we would have made strides to make this happen, whether it was before or tonight. I spoke about the failure of this board and other boards before us to make this happen. It was going to be a green space with a gazebo, and then it was going to be bocce courts, and and then all of a sudden it's going to be a parking lot. So again, I did reluctantly support it initially. I think it may have passed unanimously in the first reading, if I remember correctly. But I think we've heard a lot of information since then, and I think Mr. Howe's recommendation is probably the best way to go at this point. I think that's something that we should have thought about some time ago. Unfortunately, hindsight's always 20/20. So I'll be voting no as well.
Mr. Jackson?
I'm looking at that space, and over the past 15 years or so, it's just been a green space. And no one's wanted that space. No one's done anything with that space. It's just sat there idle. Now, basically, the only thing that happens with that space is people walk their dogs down through there, let their dogs use the bathroom there, and then they keep it moving. I haven't seen any plans. I would like to see, if there are some others who are interested in it, that's something that I would like to see. But I fully support, we have individuals who are here who are willing to put their money where their mouth is and, continue to develop that side of town. And I would like to see that happen. And for that reason, I'll continue to support, that turning into a parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wright, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I essentially agree with Councilman Jackson on the issue and what he had to say there. It sat empty for so long, so I don't see why it shouldn't move forward with it.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Riffle?
Yeah, I want to support businesses downtown. I want to bring more people downtown. This will help that building. It'll help people that are putting money into our city. We support things like a land bank, but then we have an opportunity to do the right thing with this land. And now we're kind of walking on it and want to go backwards. I don't agree with that. We should help businesses. We should help downtown, and we should approve this measure. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to add for the record that the only input I've received from my constituents are negative in regards to this. I don't necessarily disagree with Mr. Jackson or Mr. Riffle or Ms. Wright. I think I think that's something that we should be looking into. But at the end of the day, I got to do what my constituents want me to do, and that's going to be not supporting it. Sorry.
Okay, with all the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
No.
Councilmember Howe?
No.
Councilmember Hyman?
No.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Worth?
No.
Councilmember Wright?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Riffle?
Yes.
Mayor Malpajack?
No.
Motion fails. New business, Arlington Sewer Project. Consideration of first reading of an ordinance authorizing the design, acquisition, construction, and equipping of certain extensions, additions, betterments, and improvements to the existing sewage system of the city of Clarksburg.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, could you have the city manager, as I'm a little new, explain this a little bit so we have a better understanding, and also that the people in the gallery and our people we represent will have a better understanding as well of this.
I'm not going to give a whole bunch of detail because I'm also learning because this project is ongoing, but I do have someone here who can speak to that.
Okay.
Mr. Amon?
Good evening. So the bond ordinance is something that you all are pretty familiar with. It's a similar process to what we've done on all the prior utility projects. But the project ordinance is something a little new from the standpoint of there were some changes in the law that occurred in the last few years that basically, if you're a utility if you're a municipality that operates a public utility and you're of a certain size, you have a certain number of customers and revenue collections for the sewer system, then you're exempt from Public Service Commission approvals with respect to having to get a certificate of public convenience and necessity for the project. And so it's basically a streamlined process of not having to get certain Public Service Commission approvals. So if you meet those requirements, you're a utility of that size, in lieu of going through that process, the project ordinance is required. Basically, it has to describe the project and state whether there's any increase in rates, sewer rate increase that's necessary to pay for the cost of the project. And this is something that is required if it's not in the ordinary course of business for the utility, which this isn't. This is a pretty substantial capital improvement project. So that's the reason that the project ordinance is required. in addition to the bond ordinance. And then we also have up for consideration this evening the financing proposals that were received to purchase these bonds. And so that's up for consideration. And once council makes a decision on that, then at a later meeting, there will be a supplemental resolution that lays out all the final details of the financing. I hope that addresses the question.
Just one question. Based on the information and the research that you've done to this point, will there be a increase in rates to the customers?
So these bonds would be parity bonds, which means they would be equal first lien with the city's outstanding debt. And in that case, there are requirements and tests that have to be met in your existing bond ordinances. There's certain coverage in place that revenues pay for your existing operation and maintenance, and also have a certain coverage factor over all the outstanding debt service payments. I think that's like a 115 test. And so a CPA certificate is required in order to demonstrate that that test is being met. So in this case, we do have a preliminary CPA certificate that shows CPA has looked at the existing rates, the necessary coverages are being met. And so that requirement is going to be satisfied. So no increase in rates necessary.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Raymond? Thank you, sir.
Sure, thanks.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I was gonna say, do you-
It's his son's birthday.
Hello.
We got disconnected?
Yeah, must have.
Okay. You're back with us.
Okay.
Consideration of approval of award of financing to a bank or banks submitting to the city of Clarksburg the proposal for purchase of the city sewer design revenue bonds, series 2023A, in an amount not to exceed $1,500,000 with the city, which the city deems to be most advantageous.
Mr. Mayor, I move we award financing to MVB Bank in an amount not to exceed $1,500,000.
We have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
On-track presentation by Mr. Whitmore.
Good evening. In front of you, you will have a copy of the presentation and the actual application to the CAD. Try and figure this out. Okay, I'll try and keep this quick. It's a pretty straightforward request. Since 2021, just generally, I'm going to give you the background, what Main Street America does, what Main Street West Virginia does, the on-track program, and then just the application. Since 2021, downtown programming has been increased to include Winterfest, First Fridays. Both events exist kind of under the CVB, but are generally not permitted activities for CVB. This fits into something we've got to talk about a little bit called promotion. Clarksburg Uptown is the Central Business District and Glen Elk Business Association. Businesses, the Harrison County Chamber of Commerce, CVB, and Clarksburg are members. In meeting with this group, they have expressed the need to coordinate with downtown promotions and additional businesses and developers. That's an organizational piece. The success of the Downtown Flower Basket program and other beautification efforts have resulted in year-over-year budgeting increases for the actual physical built environment of the downtown. So that's a design piece. Just keep that in mind when I get to some points. So City of Clarksburg, there we go. City of Clarksburg already has building blocks for a vibrant downtown with dedicated stakeholder groups that benefit from streamlined coordination and operations reviews. The Main Street non-track programs can provide solutions to increase volunteer collaboration and actually foster investment in historic buildings. The activity spaces that make this a business in Glen Elk neighborhoods exciting places to be, and dense housing stock provided in these neighborhoods. So Main Street America, that was started back in 1980. It's a method for historic district revitalization. So this idea is to connect people who want to invest or start businesses in downtown with local landowners, building owners, government, and other business owners. So the focus is on 4 core principles to transform a downtown. That's really what the goal is, it's transformation. Through this process, you'll see we have economic vitality, design, promotions, and organization. So starting with promotion, this is the party parade, really. This is when we have the things that make downtown events happen. We already have quite a few nonprofits that operate festivals. We have the Italian Heritage Festival, the Black Heritage Festival, and I actually had the dates wrong for the Black Heritage Festival. It's going from the 8th. We're going to have the one event start for the kids at that night, and then the 9th, of course, that's when Prince is playing. That's when I'm going to be there. But then also they have something on the 10th as well, so I just want to point that out. But then also you have Winterfest, we have Jesus Fest. There's quite a few other, there were attempts this year for a rock and roll festival downtown. We have the First Fridays going on every Friday. First Friday of the month, that is. And then Robinson Grand, this is their general program. We have national acts coming in that creates things that bring people to the downtown. Let's see, next we got the design. This is the beautification. This is the actual physical built environment. Beautification committee there were some issues, but the overall need for downtown investment in beautification in like flower beds and making sure our infrastructure is in correct working order and isn't all destroyed, and also making sure the paint and whatnot is looking good. And then also, this is where facades improvement programs can fit into a different organization than the city. So often, especially with federal monies, it's good to have them passing through a Main Street organization just for all the reporting necessities. Then also moving on, we have economic vitality. This is the ensuring a diverse downtown business land use mix. So a method to actively market the downtown district, downtown events, the historic buildings, and the infill development opportunities. It really needs like a dedicated staff person. So with that, then you also have the organization. That's the fundamental foundation of Main Street. So the emphasis is on creating either a nonprofit charity, a 501c3, or a business league. Emphasis on 501c3 for the additional charity funding opportunities provided through the federal government and other philanthropy. So Main Street providing this blueprint for methods to increase the interaction, but they're also, you get this conjunction of working with other organizations, the nebulous of a social network, having more eyes engaged with what's happening with the downtown. So being able to have that organization really promote, really focus what's going on and present that information. So Main Street, West Virginia was started in '88. There's 12 Main Streets operational in the state. Closest ones, Morgantown, Mannington, Fairmont, and Philippi. The West Virginia Community and Development provides the on-track program to onboard communities to the actual Main Street, West Virginia program. Before you go to Main Street, the state makes you go through what's called on-track. So that's organization, training, revitalization, and capacity. That's what that stands for. So really setting up that 501c3, actually getting, because it takes more than one meeting to get a nonprofit started. So getting all the bylaws, everything, so that it meets IRS requirements and they would need a good audit. The training, actually providing training sessions to potential staff members for this group, but then also to our local partners to see areas, see what's working in other communities in West Virginia and nationally. Revitalization, this is a real key piece. This is the actual design and technical assistance that the state would be providing. And this is really why staff wants you to proceed with this, because we would have an opportunity to have an outside observer actually judging, A, what our design priorities in the downtown, are they working? But then also our local civic organizations, like a good example is First Fridays. We have a lot of volunteers doing a lot of things. We have to make sure that we're not wasting those people's energies, because that can lead to burnout and overall decline in the actual volunteer experience. So we want to make sure that people are getting a lot out of their organizations. This is the way to actually gauge what's going on at the ground level. And then finally, that gets into the capacity, so you get an overall quality. They really focus, it's got to be a good event. They don't want you to go to the Main Street program unless you have the foundation to really make it happen. Shinston is an example of a community that's still in the on-track phase. So you can see in the next slide, just general distribution. Unique that you're not seeing much in Charleston or Huntington. They do have West Side, but it is something that it's been a challenge because they've only really started going with on-tracks since about 2012, 2013. And they only do an application process like once every 5 years. So the application process, I actually have copies of the application now, so it's live. We have an opportunity to have an application reviewed by, CAD staff at the Brownsfield Conference, which we will be attending on September 13th. The deadline is actually early October, it's October 6th. The initial assessments of applicants, including in-person evaluation from an applicant. So once we submit an application, they're going to have people on the ground here in November and early December actually doing an evaluation to see if we would be able to continue with the program. Then we have the announcements occurring in early January with the award announcement most likely occurring in December, but if we were not be proceeding with it, then we know for sure January 2024. Applications aren't expected to be open again until 2026 or 2027. So we provide you with a timeline here. We have plenty, I would say plenty, but no, we have about a month or so to get an application together, which Brittany and I will be working on that. We'll be able to have that draft reviewed and then have it come before you all either in a work session or this type of interaction just to make sure the application and it's a program that you still would want to proceed with. And then we would go for actual resolution in support of the application either on the September 21st or October 5th, with the application then being submitted on the 6th. So really broadly, the big reason why you need this, it's something that we've been pushing for since we've been on staff. You have an organization like Clarksburg Uptown, which has the ability to fundraise. They are a 501c functional. They have a base of businesses that engage with them, but they don't have volunteers that can actually make events happen. You have a First Friday group that's an NGO, so it's just a group of people that get together. We meet about every other week, because it takes a lot of effort to get those First Fridays going. It'd be really good if we could have an organization that worked with all that group, a funding group like Clarksburg Uptown. We'll be working with them on work with the application to be a partner, being able to actually have just the means to have fundraising, then going directly to an event or directly to other efforts such as beautification and design. So that's what staff is presenting. That's what we would like to see, and I'd gladly take questions.
I had a question, a couple questions. So a Main Street organization would probably be really good for a First Friday group because of the opportunities that they could, that 501c3 could be a fiscal agent and also help leverage sponsorships for different activities that they have at their event. Am I correct?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
So First Fridays nationally really started to become a thing, especially for our historic downtowns in the 90s. And it's something that the events promotion piece, coming from Parkersburg, their Main Street organization, the promotions piece is always the fun one. Everyone wants to be on the party committee. You get to go to a party. But you need to have that organization, because otherwise, this doesn't happen on its own.
True. Yeah, my other question is, I see here on the timeline that there will be a resolution on the agenda, well, possibly a resolution on the agenda looking, in October. What is our involvement with that with this On Track and Main Street organization after we pass a resolution as a city?
So the actual Main Street Clarksburg, whatever that 501c3 or C6 would become, we would be working with them hand in hand. So there's going to be engaged with them, especially the example they gave was Charlestown. They actually have the Main Street executive director is in the city hall office, their municipal staff. That's a potential, but really the goal would be to have its own sustainable organization. The executive director, if they do get to a point where it's a Main Street organization, they have to make sure that certain revenue, like with half of the revenues have to be coming from private donation.
Mhm.
So really, that's what staff is going to try and aim for, is to have a sustainable organization that can work in tandem with us, with Clarksburg Uptown, and with other, if we proceed with, I guess there's the Glen Elk Neighborhood District Association as well. So it's the method to have, I guess, that network happen.
That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Yeah, have you spoken with with other organizations throughout the city, and where are they at with this?
We have primarily spoken just with the First Fridays group and Uptown because of the economic vitality piece. We haven't engaged with the application process. This is gonna be a good time to do that. So what we can do, and staff will do this in September then before we have a review with you, but we can get our current civic organizations and have them weigh in.
Okay, and also, what part do just private individuals play in this?
So there's, with this type of group, you're gonna have the organizational committee, but then you also have the promotions committee and beautification committee. So there's opportunities to volunteer, not just in the actual physical event about labor type of volunteering, but working with the board in those efforts. Additionally, the hope is that, there would be a want to participate because the individual likes downtown Clarksburg. When you have an organization that's functional, it really, you can see the results. And especially with their goal of having the events be consistent quality, if we get going through the on-track process and making this a sustainable organization, it should be something that council can look at and be like, okay, I can understand why we need this and what we're getting from it, and also what our citizens, residents are getting from it.
Now, if this is something that we decided to go forward with, is there some way that the city could be involved, but eventually hand this off to an agency or organization that would pick it up and go forward with it?
Functionally, no, because this is your downtown. You're tied to it. So the whole point of this is to really make sure that the city is invested in its downtown.
Any other questions for Mr. Whitmore? Jerry or Hattie, you have any questions for Mr. Whitmore?
No.
Okay, John. Thank you, sir.
Consideration of bylaws for Clarksburg News Bureau, Inc.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I was reading through those bylaws and I saw that one of the requirements in the bylaws for a director was that individuals had to be tied into the tourism industry or marketing industry. What will that do to not just the ordinary citizens out of being able to participate? Because even though we have professionalism, every once in a while we do need to still infuse, the ordinary citizen and just regular old common sense into these things.
So when I met with CVB, they came forward with these amendments, and this is what they feel works best for their organization, but in the end, council still makes the appointment to the board.
So are these, are amending the bylaws, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so.
But the final appointment is still council to make to it. That part didn't change.
Were there many changes? I couldn't tell. My copy
No,
was.
there wasn't very many changes. The appointment to the board can do two max of 2 consecutive terms. We kind of wanted, they were trying to align with council. And I told them that we have a policy coming forward about how we're going to advertise for board and commission's appointment. So we made sure that that didn't contradict anything in their bylaw, because when council is appointing the public to different boards, I believe we need to be putting that out publicly for at least a month. That's what the policy says, because some people may not know there's appointments coming up. Some people may want to get involved in their community, and that's a good way to do it. So they do work together for that too. They have to follow that policy.
There's no drastic changes, what you're saying.
I said there was a document, if I may, there was a document that Annette has, I was looking at it in your office earlier, had basically the additions and strikes and different things. And it's very minimal. I had some questions and concerns about it. They eased my concerns, so I'll be supporting it. There they are.
Okay, any more discussion?
So when are the next appointments coming up? Are there any expiring? Can you get a
Yes.
list of those as well?
Yes, we're actually redoing the boards and commission book right now. So I can have that to council to look at when that's complete. So it's very clear and understandable for council. There's also a board, the health board chair is expiring as well too. So we have to, council has to reappoint for that.
Okay. Well, I mean, specifically for this, I know this is new. It was done back in 2019, 20, somewhere in that realm. So I didn't know if they were now on a rotating basis, if they've got that corrected, because it was a fiasco from my memory, to say the least. And I don't know who wrote those originally, but I think he was a local attorney, he was a mayor. But I think, I mean, this is something we need to really take a look at, those appointments when they come up, so we can really gauge, who's on that board and, if they're active in that board and being an active participant, so.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of appointment to the Board of Park Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor, I move we appoint Mr. William Kerr, is that correct? To the
Second.
Board of Park Commissioners.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mr. Mayor, I nominate or reappoint Daniel Rogers to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a resolution of the Council of the City of Clarksburg, West Virginia, to create a policy for board and commission appointments.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Consideration of a resolution of the Council of the City of Clarksburg, West Virginia, to create a policy for speed humps.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion.
Discussion.
Okay.
You go first this time.
We'll find the notes here. So I guess I didn't get an opportunity to read that, but I guess one question I would have is ultimately, once a speed bump is approved and it's installed, I see no mechanism how to remove one in the policy.
You mean for winter time?
No, I mean,
Like if they find it's not necessary.
yeah, maybe the neighbors are sick of hearing the rattling trucks going by their house at 1 a.m. and they want it removed, and now they're stuck with it because the policy does not address how to remove it.
Okay, so first, this is a speed hump policy, so I've learned very quickly a speed bump and a speed hump are two very different things.
Understood.
So the criteria is how to put one in, and those are a permanent, they would be permanent. If council would like a method to reevaluate every year or every 2 years, Or if we get, we could put in there if there's a number of requests from the neighborhood, like, let's say if we had 5 people to come put requests in to reevaluate that, we could add that in, if council sees that a value. This is brought forward because there's a lot of requests that are coming in for speed concerns. But what I've heard from when, speaking with the police department, is it appears that there's a lot of speeding, but when the police go and actually do testing on the road, it's not actually true that there is a lot of speeding. It appears that way, but when the data shows that that's actually not happening, and it just, people feel cars are going faster than they are. But if that is an amendment that council would like to see in there, that's something we could put in there. Would look for direction if you want to wait a minimum of a year, or if you just want us to, every 2 years where there's a speed hump, we could go and test the levels again to see if it's still warranted. We could look at something like that.
Okay, so secondarily is, Councilman Jackson makes a request, the application be processed. Do any neighbors have a right to object to that?
We could put that in if council would like, but the point of a policy with set numbers put in there is that there's a demonstrated need because there is speeding. So in that way, if people didn't want it, all those criteria are set out, kind of take care of those concerns. So if it's a true safety concern, if someone doesn't particularly want it, but there's 500 cars a day and 15% of those are speeding, then there probably is a need for a speed hump.
My question is, I'm for them. Wouldn't it be cheaper to do asphalt humps than these?
That's what these
I
are.
believe that's.
Oh, these are,
That's what
okay,
these
so
are.
these aren't like the one that's on Buchanan Avenue.
He said no.
No, we talked to the city of Bridgeport, and we can make room for them, use theirs. Just make them out of asphalt, that way the plow trucks can go over them, there's no issues. And if you want to take them up afterwards, they would just grind it down.
Bless you.
like in Rose Creek.
Yeah, I mean, I see that one on Buchanan Avenue, and my big concern is when our city plow trucks go down through there, A, is it gonna tear up the speed bump, or B, is it gonna tear up the truck?
Well, hopefully the drivers have enough notes there.
Well, yeah, but if we get 4 feet of snow,
We didn't have any problems like that.
Yeah, Johnny,
He knows it's
one of the
there.
things that part is with their equipment, the hump is okay. The speed bump is,
right, that's, yeah, okay.
but
Can
the
you
hump
always
is
take that
okay.
one up and replace it with asphalt?
I'm sorry?
Can you take it up and replace it with asphalt?
That'd be, I'm all in favor of that, because I'm sure the asphalt is cheaper than that hump that's over on Buchanan.
My concern, if I may, is it's going to be submitted in an electronic form or paper form, delivered to the Public Works Department. I'm assuming that the superintendent of Public Works will then make sure it meets those 5 requirements or the design thresholds. Me personally, I think if it meets those requirements, at that point, it should go to the Traffic Commission and they should discuss it. Because if we get 100 applications, when this thing goes on, you're going to have the police running ragged, and it's going to take probably months to put all these studies out, maybe even longer if there's a huge volume of them. So if there's something I could recommend, it'd be maybe to send it to the Traffic Commission first. They can discuss it. They can see if it meets the requirements. And then on the discretion of the Traffic Commission, the police can then put out
The Traffic Commission is made up with just staff members.
I know.
So the policy sets out the minimum criteria. So if it meets the minimum threshold of criteria, what is it? I can add that in or send it.
Well, I'm saying is like when this goes live and you have, just say you have 20 applications in the first week.
Yeah, it doesn't take
And
long to do
and they all meet the requirements. Then it's going to take, how long do those sit out, Chief? The studies, the little things you guys put on the road for how long does it sit out to measure the traffic? I know that one in Northview's been out there for several weeks now.
I usually do it 2 weeks at a time, but I'm looking out for a week, a couple of days, just depends.
And how many do you have, like, total?
We got 2 right now.
Two. So I'd be concerned about the fact that, like I said, and we may not. I mean, I'm just trying to think, trying to make it easier for the.
No, and
Police department.
the police reviewed this as well.
Okay.
They actually drafted the policy.
Oh, okay.
In conjunction with me. What I will say is that I think my beginning statement of, we have 2 traffic studies right now that people have come in to say we need a speed study.
Uh-huh.
There's absolutely no data to support
Sure,
that
yeah,
because
right.
there's no speeding.
I understand. Yeah, it seems like that seems to be the
Yeah.
common theme is everybody pointing fingers and saying, "Oh, they're going 100 miles an hour," and it turns out they're not. I mean, it's just, but okay. I mean, I guess that answered my question about. Like I said, that's my only really concern.
Well, this is something that won't be able to be implemented till spring because, it's not going to be long. The asphalt plants are going to shut down.
No, but if requests come in, there is some time to do those studies over winter, which
That's
is
true.
good.
Okay.
But if there's an amendment to be made from the policy in regards to after it's been there for a certain number of time, that we go back and do our due diligence
Sure,
again
we can-
after a year,
We can revisit it.
I can add that in and bring it back. Or we can just, can we make a resolution on that make an amendment right now, or should we take it off and bring it back?
I think we'd have to bring it back.
Okay, if council would like that to be added in, we can add that in.
So if we pass it tonight, we could always bring it back
Okay.
later on.
Mhm.
Okay, that's fine.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Councilmember Howe?
No.
Councilmember Hyman?
No.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Worth?
Yes.
Councilmember Wright?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Riffle?
Yes.
Mayor Malpajoe?
Yes.
Motion carried. Deviating from the agenda for council comments.
Ms. Wright, would like to make some comments?
Hey, Mayor, could I go first, please?
Yes, you can go first. I understand it's your son's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday, please.
Yeah, that's the only request. I don't comment. Tell everybody to tell my son happy birthday. I gotta go.
All right, buddy. Ms. Wright?
I just want to apologize for not being there in person tonight. I actually am out with COVID, so I hope no one else gets it because it's so fun.
Thank you.
I'm not still able to attend via the phone and still participate, so thank you for accommodating that. And yeah, I'm just going to keep it short since I'm not really feeling my best, but I hope everyone has a safe and great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Worth?
Yeah, just, I know it seemed like it was probably a week ago, but the beginning of the meeting, the presentation that CJIS with the FBI gave, honoring our fire chief, Steve Police, I just think that's amazing. I just want to thank you. And also thank the fire department too for the relationship that they have with the FBI up there. I mean, that's kind of a tough go. I mean, if you got to call up there, I mean, oh man, you got to go all the way up 79. I mean, hopefully you get a little mutual aid if it's really getting, haywire. But and also I really want to, thank the fire department too. I mean, they've been pretty busy this week in the last week with just other events. I know the first responders with Ann Hart, that event, Lieutenant Walsh and, was there. That was a great event. I mean, just to see those kids be beside a first responder and our police department was involved in that. It was really good to see, a lot of those kids, they live with their grandparents and their grandfamilies because there probably was some issues, with their parents and just for, an hour to cook a meal with a police officer or a firefighter and then, and have that meal. I mean, that means a lot to those kids. It leaves a definite impression, and of course the first Friday, with the with the sprinkler hose. That was really nice too. Other than that, I was looking at the city manager's report here, and just amazing, the work that Public Works is doing. You're seeing them out there all the time from the sewer. I know they worked overtime with Jesus Fest and going into the United Way event. Those guys are just amazing, and I can't say enough good, about our Public Works Department. Very dynamic group of people that do a lot of dynamic, tasks that we just take for granted. It's just, when we flush the toilet, we just kind of automatically know and have comfort that we know where it's going to go. And when it gets stopped up, then our whole lives get in a disarray. And it's the Public Works that comes out and helps with that. So, and of course, I can't say enough about our police department too. Just so responsive to calls. I was out there painting a wall for the Evanston Lions Club, and I see the chief there. He's responded to a call. Even when the chief is responding to a call, that's pretty amazing. So very dedicated police department. As for on the agenda, I know it was the second reading of the lease agreement for the city lot. Initially I was pretty much 100% for that. As I got more information about it, and even some of the other information that I received tonight, which was promising, I think for me at the end of the day, was I just didn't really feel comfortable with a private entity, making improvements to a public property, and having that lease that long. That really, and the other fact was too that it really wasn't presented to, as an RFP to other folks. And there may be some, something, an ordinance that says that when it comes to lease agreements, we can do that. I still don't think, that's what we should do. And at the end of the day, when something we confront something like this, I'm going to agree with Councilman Howell. Maybe we should pass it on to the Urban Renewal Authority and have them look at it a little bit more instead of us politicians up here just trying to decide what we're going to do. And not to take away anything from the Gore Lux. Those folks have really invested a lot in our community. Very involved in First Fridays, very involved in a lot of other stuff. And I just, I hope even after Urban Renewal Authority looks at it, or if it does go up for auction, if that's something that, we feel we want to do in the future, I hope that, they get it, but we have to at least, make sure that there's other folks that are able to, have a stake in that, at least bidding on that. So, other than that, I think we have a very dynamic council. Councilman Jackson, I really appreciate all your questions that you had, even about how we're going to pay for our sewer projects. That's really good. I think, never be afraid to ask some of those questions, because sometimes, a lot of the answers that we get from the experts answer some of our questions too. So other than that, I just wish everybody a good weekend and, and a happy Italian Heritage Festival. So
thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate Patrolman Helsley on Officer of the Month. And the reminder of school's back in session. Be careful, watch for children. Obviously, it's going to be a busy time around our schools, so just make sure, keep an eye out for the wee ones. In regards to the lot, the parking lot, I know it's a very difficult decision because, I'm not entirely supportive of making it a green space. In the original idea, the intent with the gazebo, I was not supportive of that. However, the majority of the people who spoke to me about it do want to see something in that parking lot, and I do have some questions about how it was done and how we got to this point, and so I'd like to recommend to the city manager to put that in front of the URA or go through the proper channels to make it available for bid or just make sure we have our checks and balances in line and it's done the right way. And on top of that, the other issue I hear all the time, everywhere, is parking. And here, the idea that, we're going to lease it to a private entity, it's just very alarming to me, the fact that, we would have a parking lot over there that nobody in the city of Clarksburg can use with the exceptions of the tenants of the Gore Lux, excuse me. So that was another issue that I had with I was initially supportive of traffic humps, and I think the intent is good, but at the same time, I'm the process still kind of concerning. And Mr. Howe brought up a very good point about the removal of them. I mean, there's no process to remove them, and I'm sure we can figure that out. And the last thing I want to talk about is the election. We have spoken about moving the city election since 2021. It's time to make that happen. I hope that our city manager can sit down with the county commission and the county clerk and our city clerk and make that happen to all the people who supported in those elections. I know we had to take a step backwards, obviously, for legal matters, but now it's time to get that going, because I know that there's members of council up here that need to know. Obviously, we've been 2 months through that already, and it's time to sit down and make that move. So other than that, enjoy the Italian Heritage Festival that's coming up. Be there and having a good time, and we'll see you next time around.
Mr. Jackson?
I would like to begin by saying congratulations to Patrolman Halsey for his Officer of the Month award. I would also like to congratulate Chief Police on his years of dedication and service to the city. For the past 15 years or so, I've been a thorn in his side with that camera of mine, just following him around and shooting. And I've got to see the level of professionalism that we can expect if we ever have an incident or accident in our city. So congratulations, Chief, on all your years and your retirement as well. I would like to also address the situation that was brought up, or the concern that was brought up in our last meeting by Mr. Rollins about the trash cans. There is some information that will be forthcoming soon. That's a situation that, we need to address. During the campaign, one of the things that I heard from door to door was, we need a clean, safe city. Garbage cans are not yard decorations. We need to make sure that those garbage cans are put back to where they go. Even back in the day, as far as I can think, the city, when they ran the garbage truck, they always had a guy called a setback man. And that's the guy who came after the garbage truck, who put those cans back behind the house. And if individuals have a problem with getting those cans out there or back, then Waste Management has a means to address that situation. So, there is some information that will be forthcoming. Another situation or concern that was brought was by Mr. Folio, and he expressed concern about the grass on the curb lines and the sidewalks. And I would personally like to challenge all of the people of Clarksburg. Let's do a curbside challenge. When you go home, if you're on the live with us, or if you're out here, or you talk to your neighbors, look at your sidewalk and look at your curb line and see if you have grass growing. And if you do, I challenge you, just trim the grass, whether you use your weed eater, whether you're using weed killer, whatever it is. Because, people say, well, we're focusing on the wrong things. No, we're focusing on the right things. We have a lot working right here, but I want the people of Clarksburg to please understand that what we're doing right now is, this isn't going to be like turning a jet ski around in the middle of the water. This is like turning an ocean cruiser around. This is going to take time, but we can start by doing the little things. And, the city of Clarksburg can't do it all by ourselves. We need the help from the citizens. So I'm asking you that if your sidewalk has grass growing out of it, and it's not just person, because I walk through town, I see businesses that have grass growing up. This is unacceptable. We've allowed the level of care and standard of living in our town to fall to the point where now when we bring it up as an issue, people get offended. It's time to clean up the city. And it starts with each one of us, each individual. So I'm asking everyone, please clean up your sidewalks, clean up your parking lots, whatever it is, the curb lines, let's get that taken care of. Basically, I would also like to follow up and say congratulations to firefighter Jace Neville, who was sworn in on the 7th of this month. I wasn't able to attend that, but I would just like to say congratulations to him. And, I wish him well in a long career with the Clarksburg Fire Department. Other than that, the festival coming up, I wish everyone a great weekend. Happy time at the festival, and thank you.
Mr. Howe?
Phil, if you could, this is, I think, the third time I've requested, but can we get the union contract onto the agenda so we can get it approved? We do have two, I think both are officers, correct, of the union here, but I would like to really see that on the next agenda.
May I respond?
Sure, absolutely.
So I've been here for 8-9 weeks, and I've talked to the mayor. I would really like to have the opportunity to watch Public Works and just see how you guys work through the winter season before I extend the union contract or open it up and go into negotiations. I think this is a big organization. I'd like to take the time, if council's all right with that, just to do my due diligence on Public Works. Their contract is extended right now to, I believe, July. So that gives us some time. And if council's all right with it, I was planning to bring it back in January.
That's where it was just rolled over.
Yes, sir. It was just rolled over. And so it's for 1 year until July. And I know Public Works would like to enter into a 3-year contract, but I feel I have to do my due diligence as well and to lock into. Pardon?
Where'd you get the 3 years from?
That's what I heard, was 3 years.
Right, that's what you heard.
But I would like the opportunity to do my due diligence for Public Works before I move forward with anything. I just would like to hear council's thoughts on that.
Well, I can understand the apprehensiveness of several of the employees in the Public Works Department with those rolling over when they're used to the contracts being signed on a regular basis, only because, I mean, again, you said there's an election coming up. It's been a volatile. We were going through 5 city managers through the 6th. I think, it's for the steadiness and the well-being of the employees, I think they like to have that. And who knows, Bridgeport's looking for a city manager. You might not be here either. So just that's a compliment. So I think on that regards, or I might not be here either on the next round of elections. So I would just like to have that
put your
taken
mind at
into.
ease. I did want.
We'll put their mind at ease.
That's why I don't want to wait until in spring, because there is another election. So I did want to look at that either end of year or January, so that this current council is here.
All right, and then second, I had to go back. I don't know if we had an opportunity to watch the Urban Renewal Authority meeting this morning, but I received several phone calls after the meeting. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't watch it, but then once I got several phone calls, I went on to watch, and I was a little bit dismayed that the URA would table the entire agenda when there's been 3 applicants on there for 3 months, and they can't get their application acted upon. And I think, the URA really needs to step up and do what they're there to do. And if they can't, then I think we really need to start looking at who's on the URA. Maybe if they're coming up, we need to start doing replacements, because, these are businesses putting money into their facilities and buildings and property. And if they're doing an application with the faith of the city has an application process and they're not acting upon it, that doesn't look good on the city. It reflects on the city, even as Urban Renewal Authority. So I think we really need to take a look at that as well. I think there's only 3 members maybe present this morning, or 4. I don't know. I couldn't count well on TV and see who's who, but 4. So I don't know which members they are, but I'd like to have a further discussion with you on that as well, so we can make sure that that's moving forward. Obviously, especially if we start utilizing them for redevelopment plans, which they've done in the past, that's a very pertinent part of the city, an arm of the city, to be able to utilize for those type of redevelopment plans. So the apprehensiveness of that I would have is, moving forward, they really need to make sure that they have their ducks in a row. And I think, Mr. Whitmore, I think you provided them a wealth of information, which I think you provided recommendations for the last 2 meetings as well.
And that's why you have staff that comes to the URA meetings. And I think they need to look at your judgment and your recommendation and act upon it. So I really hope the URA, I don't know when they meet next, but I think we're really starting to anger some people that are investing in the community overall and losing lack of faith. So I think that needs addressed. Again, congrats, Chief, on your recognition tonight from the FBI, and happy future retirement as well. I think you'll reconsider when you get closer. But, and then, Mr. Kerr, thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate your service on the park board. Great comments, and I know you do a lot of input over there, and we appreciate that. And thanks for the public works as well attending today. That means a lot, I think. And citizens, employees, other members of boards take interest in what the city is doing. So thank you. Yep.
Well, I'd like to just agree and iterate what everybody else has said up here. I'm not going to say much. Just if you see something, say something. Pick up the phone, dial 911. I know you guys are tired of hearing about that, but I've been saying it for 3 years, and I'm going to say it for the next 2. So thank you all for coming. And I received a letter, and I'll read just a short paragraph. Dear Mayor Malfrageau, the Water Development Board of the West Virginia Water Development Authority has awarded an up to $1,850,000 to West Virginia's Economic Enhancement Grant for your project. So that is good news for us, and this goes to you, Mr. Howe.
Pursuant to Chapter 6, Article 9A, Section 4 of the West Virginia Code, I move the council adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel matters, that the following persons be present: the mayor, members of Clarksburg City Council, city manager, city attorney, and city clerk.
So,
Second. We're going to an executive session. Huh? Should we have vote?
Mike Searle.